The phone rang at 7:43, shattering what little peace Mike had managed to salvage from another sleepless night. He stared at the screen through bleary eyes. Unknown number. His stomach clenched. He knew what was coming. He knew because the same thing had been happening every single day for the past 6 months. He let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. On the fourth ring, he answered, his voice barely above a whisper. Hello? The voice that responded was sharp, aggressive, designed to intimidate. Am I speaking with Michael Okonkwo? She asked. Yes, this is Mike. Mike, this is Grace calling from Fair Money. Your loan repayment of 378,000 naira is seriously overdue. When today should we expect your payment? Her tone demanding. Mike rubbed his eyes. 378,000 naira. Yesterday it was 372,000. The number kept growing, like a malignant tumor, fed by daily penalty charges and accumulated interest. I, I will pay. I just need small time. My salary has not, Mike stuttered. Small time? The woman's voice rose, cutting through his explanation like a machete through sugarcane. Mr. Michael, you have been saying small time for 3 months now. Do you think we are fools? Do you think this is a joke? No, I don't think it's a joke. I am trying. I paid 20,000 last week. Mike managed to reply before she cut in again. 20,000 out of 378,000. You are not serious. Listen to me very well. If you don't pay at least 100,000 naira by the end of this week, we will publish your name and picture on social media. We will call your family. We will call your place of work. We will tell everybody that you are a scammer who borrowed money and refused to pay. Do you hear me? She said angrily. Mike's hands began to shake. Please, don't do that. I beg you. I will pay. I promise I will pay, Mike pleaded. You promise? The woman laughed a mocking laugh. That is what you said last month. That is what you said last week. Your promises mean nothing, Mr. Scammer. Pay the money or face the consequences, she said with a tone of finality. The line went dead. Mike sat on the edge of his mattress, the phone still pressed against his ear, listening to the dial tone. His heart hammered in his chest. His breathing was shallow, rapid. The room seemed to shrink around him, the walls closing in. Before he could gather himself, the phone rang again, another unknown number. He answered. This is Tony from Palm Credit. A different voice, male this time, equally aggressive. You are owing Palm Credit 145,000 naira. When will you pay? He inquired. I don't have it right now, Mike replied. You don't have it? Then why did you borrow it? Are you a thief? You borrow money with no intention of paying back, and you think there will be no consequences, he retorted. I have intention to pay back. I am just having difficulties, Mike answered. Difficulties? That is your problem, not ours. We gave you money in good faith, and you have refused to pay. If you don't pay by Friday, we will report you to the police. You will be arrested for fraud. Do you understand? Mike said nothing. His throat had closed up. I said, do you understand? The man shouted. Yes, Mike whispered. Good. 145,000 naira by Friday, or you will see what will happen. He threatened. Another deadline. Another wave of panic washing over him. Before noon, he would receive 8 more calls from Fair Money, from Palm Credit, from Okash, from Sokoloan, from New Credit, each one more aggressive than the last. Each one threatening exposure, disgrace, and arrest. Each one reminding him of numbers that kept growing, debts that kept multiplying, consequences that kept looming. This was Mike's life now. This was what his mornings looked like. This was the price he was paying for a decision he had made 7 months ago, a decision that had seemed brilliant at the time, a calculated risk that promised to solve all his problems. But it hadn't solved anything. It had only created new problems, bigger problems, problems that were now threatening to swallow him whole. To understand how Mike ended up here, a 30-year-old biochemistry graduate working for an HIV/AIDS organization in Abuja, drowning in debt, receiving threatening calls before breakfast. We need to go back to the beginning, back to when the idea first took root in his mind. Lest I forget, please tell me in the comment section where you are watching from. Back to Mike. Mike had always been the responsible one in his family, the one who finished university, the one who got a job, even if it wasn't exactly what he had dreamed of, the one his parents and siblings looked up to when things got difficult. He had studied biochemistry at the University of Lagos, graduating with a respectable second class upper division. Like most Nigerian graduates, he had sent out dozens of CVs, attended countless interviews, and faced the soul crushing disappointment of rejection after rejection. The oil companies didn't want him. The pharmaceutical companies said they would get back, to never did. The research institutes had no vacancies. The hospitals and clinics wanted experience he didn't have. For 2 years after NYSC, he hustled. He sold insurance policies door to door for a commission based company that paid him peanuts. He taught biology and chemistry at a private secondary school in Festac for 25,000 naira a month. He worked as a laboratory assistant at a diagnostic center in Yaba, running tests and cleaning equipment for 30,000 naira monthly. Then, finally, the breakthrough came. A friend told him about an organization in Abuja that provided services to people living with HIV: counseling, testing, treatment support, community outreach. They were hiring ad hoc staff for a project funded by an international donor. The pay wasn't great, 70,000 naira a month, but it was better than what he was earning in Lagos. More importantly, there was a chance, however slim, of being converted to permanent staff if he performed well. That is where the real money in NGO work is. Mike took the job and relocated to Abuja. He rented a single room in Kubwa, a densely populated suburb on the outskirts of the city. The room cost 225,000 naira a year, which he paid upfront using his savings. He bought a small mattress, a plastic chair, a table, and a hot plate. His life in Abuja was simple, almost monastic. Wake up at 5 a.m., prepare for work, take 3 buses to get to the office in central area, work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., take 3 buses back to Kubwa, arrive home exhausted, eat whatever cheap meal he could afford, sleep, repeat. The work itself was meaningful. Mike counseled young people about HIV prevention, distributed condoms and informational materials, accompanied clients to health facilities, collected data for the organization's reports. He met people whose stories broke his heart: young women infected by unfaithful husbands, teenagers born with the virus, men abandoned by their families after diagnosis. The work reminded him why he had studied science in the first place: to help people, to make a difference, to contribute something valuable to society. But meaningful work didn't pay the bills. Mike's father, Mr. Peter Okonkwo, had retired from the civil service 3 years earlier. His pension, when it came at all, was barely enough to feed himself and Mike's mother, let alone cover other expenses. The family house in their village in Anambra needed constant repairs. The roof leaked during rainy season. The walls had cracks. The septic tank needed to be emptied. Mike's younger brother was in his final year at a polytechnic in Enugu, and school fees were always due. His younger sister was in secondary school, and her exam fees needed to be paid. Every month, like clockwork, Mike's phone would ring. His father's voice, apologetic but desperate. "Mike, my son, how are you?" he would say. "I am fine, Dad. How is everybody at home?" "We are managing. God is faithful." "Mike, I wanted to ask. The water borehole in the compound has stopped working. The engineer said it will cost 30,000 to repair. Can you help us with something?" His father will ask in a desperate tone. Or his mother will call: "Mike, your father's blood pressure medicine has finished. The doctor said he must not stop taking it. Can you send 20,000 for the drugs?" she would beg. Or a sister will call: "Brother Mike, my school fees balance is 50,000. The school said if I don't pay by next week, they will not allow me write my exams." Mike sent what he could: 10,000 here, 15,000 there, sometimes 20,000 if he had managed to save a little, but it was never enough. His 70,000 naira salary, After deducting transport fare, data, subscription, feeding, and the money he sent home, left him with barely anything. He wore the same three shirts to work, rotating them throughout the week. He bought second-hand shoes from vendors at Wuse Market. He skipped meals sometimes, eating just Gary and groundnuts at night to save money. He had no social life, no hanging out with colleagues after work, no weekend parties, no cinema trips. Every naira was accounted for, budgeted, stretched as far as it could go. And then there was Chiamaka. Chiamaka was his girlfriend of 4 years. They had met during his NYSC year in Rivers State, where she was working as a receptionist at a hotel in Port Harcourt. She was beautiful, ambitious, and patient. At least, she had been patient for the first 3 years. But patience has a shelf life, and by the fourth year, hers had expired. Mike, we are not getting younger, she would say during their phone calls. I am 27, you are 30. When are we going to get married? She would always ask. Chiamaka, you know my situation. I am still an ad hoc staff. My salary is small. I am trying to save. Mike would manage to reply, knowing she would have none of it. Trying to save? How long will you keep trying? My friends are getting married. My younger sister just got engaged. People are asking me when it will be my turn, and I have no answer to give them. She would say, I know, I understand, but I need more time, Mike replied. Time, time, time. That is all you ever say. Mike, if you are not serious about this relationship, tell me now so I can move on with my life. These conversations always ended with Mike feeling guilty, pressured, and inadequate. He loved Chiamaka. He wanted to marry her. But how could he marry her when he could barely feed himself? How could he pay bride price, plan a wedding, rent a flat for them when he was already sending half his salary home to his parents? The pressure was crushing him from all sides: family, girlfriend, work, bills, expectations. He felt like a man trying to hold up a collapsing ceiling with his bare hands, knowing that eventually his arms would give out and everything would come crashing down. It was in this state, desperate, frustrated, looking for a way out, that Mike discovered cryptocurrency. It started innocuously enough. A colleague at work, a young man named Timothy, who always seemed to have money despite earning the same salary as Mike, mentioned during lunch break that he had made 50,000 naira in 1 week trading Bitcoin. 50,000 in 1 week? Mike asked, unable to hide his disbelief. Yes, my guy, crypto is the future. The profit is crazy, Tim said, showing Mike charts on his phone that meant nothing to him: green and red candles, numbers rising and falling, graphs that looked like heartbeat monitors. But I don't know anything about crypto, Mike admitted. That's the thing. You don't need to know. There are people online who give signals. You just follow their signals, buy when they say buy, sell when they say sell. Easy money. Tim showed him screenshots of trades he had supposedly won. Mike saw numbers that made his head spin: $50 profit, $80 profit, $120 profit. In Naira, at the exchange rate then, those were serious amounts. Amounts that could solve his immediate problems. Amounts that could silence the calls from home, pay for his father's medicine, appease Chiamaka, maybe even allow him to enroll in the master's program he had been postponing for years. How do you start? Mike asked, trying to keep the desperation out of his voice. You need capital, at least 100,000 naira to trade properly. Then you find a good signal provider. I can recommend one to you, Tim assured him. Mike didn't have 100,000 naira. He didn't have 50,000 naira. He had about 32,000 naira in his bank account, money he had been saving for his annual rent renewal. But Tim's words echoed in his mind for days. 50,000 in 1 week. Easy money. Follow the signals. The future. Mike began to research. He spent his evenings after work on his phone, reading articles about cryptocurrency, watching YouTube videos about Bitcoin and Ethereum and altcoins, joining Telegram groups where traders shared their wins and losses. The more he read, the more convinced he became that this was his way out. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. Then he found Rana Kapoor, an Indian woman who posted screenshots of her trades on Twitter every single day. Mike followed her account and watched in awe as she posted win after win, $500 profit on Bitcoin, $800 profits on Ethereum, $1,200 profits on some coin called Solana. Her Twitter bio said, professional crypto trader, 5 years experience, 87% win rates, DM for signals. Mike scrolled through months of her posts. The wins were consistent, impressive, seemingly real. Other people commented on her posts. Thank you, Rana. Your signal made me $200 today. Best signal provider ever. Just made my third win this week following your calls. He sent her a direct message. Hello, Rana. I saw your posts and I'm interested in your signals. How does it work? She responded within an hour, her English slightly formal but clear. Hello, thank you for your interest. I offer a monthly subscription service. For $30 per month, you will receive daily trading signals via Telegram. I will tell you when to enter trades, where to place stop loss, when to take profit. My win rate is 87%. Many of my subscribers have doubled their capital in 2 to 3 months. Mike did the math. $30 was about 22,000 naira at the time. If he paid her for 1 month and followed her signals diligently, he could potentially double or even triple his capital in weeks. He could turn 100,000 naira into 200,000, then 400,000, then 800,000. Within a few months, he could solve all his problems. He could send money home without feeling guilty. He could pay for his master's program. He could marry Chamaka. But there was one problem. He didn't have capital. That's when the idea came to him. The idea that would change everything. The idea that seemed brilliant in the moment but would later reveal itself as the worst decision of his life. He would borrow the money. Mike had heard about loan apps from his colleagues. Fair Money, Palm Credit, Carbon, mobile applications that promised instant loans without collateral, without complicated paperwork, without visiting any bank. You just downloaded the app, provided your BVN, uploaded a photo of your ID card, and within minutes, you could borrow money. He downloaded Fair Money first and went through the application process. The app asked for access to his contacts, his call logs, his messages. He hesitated for a moment. Something about giving an app access to his entire phone felt invasive, uncomfortable. But he pushed the feeling aside and clicked allow. Within 10 minutes, his account was verified. The app offered him a maximum loan of 400,000 naira, repayable over 18 months at an interest rate that made his eyes widen, 27% per month. He did the quick calculation. If he borrowed 400,000, he would pay back approximately 1,300,000 naira over 18 months. That was 72,000 naira per month. The number made him uncomfortable. 72,000 per month was more than his entire salary. But then he thought about what Rana had posted, 87% win rates. Double your capital in 2 to 3 months. If he could turn 400,000 into 800,000 within 2 months, he could pay back a significant portion of the loan and be free. The high interest wouldn't matter if he made quick, substantial profits. He borrowed the money. On a Tuesday evening in his small room in Kubwa, Mike clicked the borrow button on the Fair Money app. The money hit his account within 5 minutes, 400,000 naira. More money than he had ever seen in his accounts at once. He stared at the balance on his phone screen, his heart racing with a mixture of excitement and fear. This is it, he thought. This is my breakthrough. He paid Rana $30 for her monthly Signal subscription. He sent 50,000 naira home to his parents. His father needed the borehole fixed. His mother needed money for medication. His sister's school fees were due. He kept the remaining 330,000 naira for trading. Following Rana's instructions, he opened an account on Binance, one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges. He transferred his money, bought USDT, a stablecoin pegged to the dollar, and waited for Rana's first signal. It came the next morning via Telegram. BTC USDT long. Entry $42,500. Stop loss $41,800. Take profit $44,200. Leverage 5x. Mike didn't fully understand what any of it meant, but Rana had sent a video tutorial explaining the basics. Long meant he was betting that Bitcoin's price would go up. Leverage meant he was borrowing money from the exchange to amplify his trade. In this case, 5x meant that his 330,000 naira would trade like 1,650,000 naira, magnifying both potential profit and potential loss. Stop loss was the price at which his trade would automatically close if the market moved against him. Take profit was where he would exit and collect his gains. He entered the trade with trembling hands. For the next few hours, he couldn't concentrate on anything. He sat at his office desk, pretending to work, but his phone was in his hand, refreshing the Binance app every few minutes, watching the Bitcoin price charts move up and down in real time. And then it happened. The price moved up. Slowly at first, then faster. Within 6 hours, Bitcoin hit his take profit targets. Mike's screen flashed green. Position closed. Profit $112. $112. At the exchange rate then, that was about 82,000 naira. In 6 hours, Mike stared at the number, unable to believe it. He had just made 82,000 naira, more than his monthly salary, in 6 hours, simply by following Rana's signal. He was euphoric. He felt like he had discovered the secret to wealth that everyone else was missing. Why was he stressing himself working for 70,000 naira a month when he could make that in a day trading crypto? The second signal came 2 days later. Another win, $68 profit. The third signal, another win, $95. By the end of the first week, Mike had made $370 in total, about 270,000 naira. His capital had nearly doubled. He sent 20,000 naira to Chiamaka as a surprise. I just got a small bonus at work, he texted her. Buy yourself something nice. She called him immediately, excited. Mike, this is so sweet. Thank you, baby. See, I knew you would make it. This is just the beginning, she said. He felt like a hero, like a provider, like the man he had always wanted to be but never had the resources to become. For 3 weeks, everything was perfect. Rana's signals kept winning. Mike's account kept growing. He was now sitting on over 700,000 naira in profit. In addition to his initial capital, he started making plans. He would withdraw some of the profit and pay back a large chunk of the Fair Money loan. He would enroll in the Master of Public Health program he had been postponing. He would send more money home. He would plan a proper introduction ceremony with Chiamaka's family. And then the losses began. The first loss was small. Rana gave a signal for Ethereum. Mike entered the trade with confidence, but this time the market moved against him. His stop loss was hit, and he lost $35. Not a big deal. Even the best traders lose sometimes, he told himself. The second loss was bigger, $78. Mike felt a small knot of anxiety forming in his stomach, but Rana posted a message in the Telegram group. Sorry for the loss, team. Market was unpredictable today. Don't worry, we'll recover tomorrow. The third loss was even bigger. Mike missed Rana's signal by 10 minutes because he was in a meeting at work and couldn't check his phone. By the time he entered the trade, the price had already moved, and he entered at a bad position. He was liquidated. The exchange automatically closed his position when his losses hit a certain level, and he lost $150 in a single trade. Mike began to panic. He was now down about $200 from his peak. But he still had profit overall, he reminded himself. He just needed to be more careful, more disciplined. Rana's next signal was for a coin called Ripple. She was very confident about this one. Posted in the Telegram group, this is a high probability setup. 10x leverage recommended. Big profits coming. 10 times leverage. That meant Mike's money would trade like it was 10 times larger. Higher risk, but higher reward. He hesitated. Something felt wrong. But everyone else in the Telegram group was excited, posting rocket emojis, saying they were going all in. And Rana had been right so many times before. Mike entered the trade with 10x leverage. Within 30 minutes, the trade went against him. The price dropped sharply, triggered his liquidation price, and wiped out his entire position. He lost 220,000 naira in 30 minutes. He stared at his phone screen, unable to breathe. This couldn't be happening. He refreshed the app, thinking it was a glitch, a mistake, but the numbers didn't change. His balance had been cut in half. He immediately sent a message to Rana in the Telegram group. I just got liquidated. Lost everything on that triple trade. What happened? She responded an hour later. Sorry to hear that. The market was very volatile. This is why I always say, never risk more than you can afford to lose. Crypto is risky. Not every trade will be a winner. Never risk more than you can afford to lose. The words felt like mockery. How could she say that now? After encouraging everyone to use 10x leverage? After posting big profits coming? But Mike didn't have time to be angry at Rana. He had a bigger problem. His trading capital was now cut in half, and the fair money loan repayment was due in 2 weeks, 72,000 naira. He had sent 50,000 home. He had sent 20,000 to Chiamaka. He had paid Rana $30. His salary was barely enough to cover the monthly repayment, and he still needed money for transport and feeding. He tried to recover. He took more of Rana's signals, but now he was trading emotionally, desperately, trying to win back what he had lost. This is the worst thing a trader can do, but Mike didn't know that. He entered trades with larger positions, hoping for bigger wins. Instead, he got bigger losses. Within 2 weeks, his entire trading capital was gone. 330,000 naira evaporated. All that remained in his Binance account was the equivalent of 18,000 naira, not even enough to take a decent trade. Mike sat in his room that evening, the reality of what had happened slowly sinking in. He had borrowed 400,000 naira. He had lost almost all of it. And now he had to pay back 1,300,000 naira over 18 months. He felt like he was falling into a dark pit with no bottom, no way to stop, no way to climb back out. The first payment was due in 3 days, 72,000 naira. His salary for the month was 70,000 naira. Even if he used his entire salary to pay the loan, he would still be short by 2,000 and he would have 0 naira left for transport, food, or anything else. That's when the phone call started. The first call from Fair Money came on the day his payment was due. It was a friendly reminder at first. Hello, Mr. Michael. This is to remind you that your repayment of 72,000 naira is due today. Please make your payments to avoid penalties. Mike paid 40,000 naira, all he could scrape together from his salary after setting aside money for transport. He knew it wasn't enough, but he hoped it would buy him some time. It didn't. The next day, the calls became more aggressive. Different numbers, different voices, all saying the same thing. You are owing us. When will you pay? Why are you running away from your responsibility? Mike tried to explain. I paid 40,000 yesterday. I will pay the balance next week when I get some money. 40,000 is not enough. You were supposed to pay 72,000. Now you are owing 32,000 plus penalty charges. The number had gone up. Because he didn't pay the full amount, they added more interest, more penalties. The debt was growing faster than he could pay it. Mike's life became a nightmare. Every morning, his phone rang before he even fully woke up. Unknown numbers, aggressive voices, threats, insults. They called him a scammer, a thief, a fraudster. They said they would publish his picture on social media, that they would call his workplace, that they would tell everyone he knew that he was a debtor who refused to pay his obligations. And it wasn't just fair money. Because Mike couldn't pay his full fair money installments with his salary, he downloaded another loan app, Palm Credit, and borrowed money to make up the shortfall. He paid fair money, but now he owed Palm Credit. When Palm Credit's repayment was due and he didn't have the money, he downloaded Okash and borrowed from there to pay Palm Credit. It was a vicious cycle. Borrow from app A to pay app B. borrow from App C to pay App A. Each new loan came with its own interest rates, its own repayment schedule, its own set of threatening calls when he inevitably failed to pay on time. By the end of the fourth month, Mike was owing money to five different loan apps: Fair Money, Palm Credit, Okash, Sokoloan, and New Credit. Every single day, his phone rang at least 10 times. Different numbers, different apps, same threats. We will call your parents. We will publish your photo. We will report you to the police. We will tell your employer you are a criminal. They would threaten. Mike stopped picking up calls from unknown numbers. But that only made things worse because the loan recovery agent started calling his contacts, friends, family members, colleagues whose numbers were saved in his phone. They had gotten access when Mike first gave the apps permission to view his contacts. One day, his father called him, confused and angry. Mike, someone called me saying you are owing them money. What is happening? Are you in trouble? His father asked. Mike's heart sank. Dad, it's nothing. Just a small misunderstanding. I will sort it out, he assured his dad. Small misunderstanding. The person said you owe them hundreds of thousands. Mike, what have you done? The father insisted to know. Mike couldn't explain. How could he tell his father, a retired civil servant who had never borrowed money in his life, that his son had taken a massive loan to gamble on cryptocurrency? How could he explain that he had believed an Indian woman on Twitter who promised easy money? How could he admit that he had been so desperate, so foolish, so greedy? I will handle it, Dad. Please don't worry, was all he could muster. But his father did worry, and so did his mother and his sisters. Because the loan apps called all of them, one by one, telling them that Mike was a debtor, a scammer, someone who borrowed money with no intention of paying it back. The shame was unbearable. At work, Mike became a ghost. He stopped talking to his colleagues, stopped eating lunch with them, stopped participating in office activities. He arrived early and left late, burying himself in work, desperately trying to distract himself from the calls, the debts, the shame, the crushing weight of it all. One of his colleagues, a woman named Bridget, noticed. She pulled him aside one afternoon. Mike, are you okay? You don't look well. Is everything all right? She asked with concern written over her face. I'm fine, Mike lied, forcing a smile. You're not fine. I can see it. If something is wrong, you can talk to me. Maybe I can help, she said. Mike wanted to talk. He wanted to tell someone, anyone, what he was going through. But the words wouldn't come. How do you tell someone you've destroyed your life over a bad decision? How do you admit that level of failure? I'm okay, Bridget, just tired. Thank you for asking. She looked at him with concern but didn't push further. The worst part wasn't even the money or the calls or the shame. The worst part was what it was doing to Mike's mind. He stopped sleeping. Every night, he lay on his mattress, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing with calculations. How much do I owe? How much can I pay? Where will I get the money? What if they really call my workplace? What if I lose my job? What if they arrest me? He stopped eating properly. Food had no taste. His stomach was always in knots. He lost weight rapidly, his clothes hanging loose on his frame. He stopped going to church. He had been an active member of the choir at his local parish, a place where he found peace and community, but now he couldn't bring himself to go. How could he stand in church and sing about God's goodness when his life was falling apart? How could he pray when he felt like God had abandoned him? He stopped attending choir rehearsals, stopped responding to messages from his church friends, just disappeared. He stopped cutting his hair. What was the point? Who was he trying to impress? His hair grew long and unkempt, his beard wild. He looked like a different person, hollow-eyed, gaunt, haunted. Nothing made sense anymore. Life had become a series of mechanical actions. Wake up, ignore phone calls, go to work, pretend to be okay, come home, stare at the wall, fail to sleep, repeat. And then there was Chiamaka. She didn't know about the loans. Mike had hidden it from her, telling her that work was just stressful, that he was tired, that everything was fine. But Chiamaka was losing patience. She wanted progress. She wanted marriage. She wanted a date set for introduction, for traditional wedding, for white wedding. Mike, my mother is asking questions, she said during one of their calls. She wants to know when your people are coming to see my people. What should I tell her? Tell her. Tell her soon. I'm working on it, Mike said. Soon? You said soon, 6 months ago. Mike, I need to know if you are serious about me or not. If you're not, please let me know so I can stop wasting my time, she said. Chiamaka, I am serious. I just need to sort out some things first, Mike pleaded. Some things? What things? What are you sorting out that is taking so long? Do you have another girlfriend? Is that why you are delaying? She accused him. No, there's no other girlfriend. I swear, it's just work and family issues. Please, just give me a little more time, Mike assured her. Time, she was shouting now. I have given you time. 4 years, Mike. 4 years of my life. And you are still talking about time? My friends are married. Some of them have children. And I am here waiting for a man who is always saying soon but never actually does anything. Mike felt tears stinging his eyes. Chiamaka, please. I love you. I want to marry you. I'm just going through a difficult period right now, he managed to say. Then talk to me. Tell me what is going on. If you are going through something difficult, I am your woman. I should be the first person you tell. But you are hiding things from me, Mike. You are shutting me out. How can we get married if you can't even be honest with me? She was right. But Mike couldn't tell her. He couldn't bear the thought of her knowing what a failure he had become. The relationship limped along for another 3 months, each conversation more tense than the last, until finally Chiamaka gave him an ultimatum. Mike, I can't do this anymore. Either you come home to see my parents by the end of this month, or we are done. I mean it. I am not joking. I need to move on with my life, she said. Mike knew he couldn't meet her deadline. He didn't have money for transport to Port Harcourt, let alone money for the gifts and expenses that would come with a formal visit to her family. He was drowning in debt, receiving threatening calls daily, barely surviving. Marriage was the last thing he could afford to think about. He didn't call her before the deadline. He didn't send a message. He just let the silence speak for itself. Chiamaka called him once, her voice cold. I guess you've made your choice. Goodbye, Mike, she said, and ended the call. The relationship was over. Mike sat in his room that evening and cried. Not just for Chiamaka, but for everything. For the dreams that had died, for the money he had lost, for the debt that was crushing him, for the future that seemed impossible now. He cried until he had no tears left, until his body ached from the sobbing, until exhaustion finally pulled him into a fitful sleep. Somewhere in the middle of all this chaos, Mike made another terrible decision. A decision born of desperation, of magical thinking, of the belief that maybe, just maybe, luck would smile on him one more time. He started betting on sports. He had never been a gambler before, but now, with his back against the wall, with debt collectors calling him every day, with no other source of income, he thought, what if I could win big on a bet? What if I could turn 5,000 naira into 50,000, then 50,000 into 500,000? He downloaded Sporty Bets and started placing bets on football matches. Premier League, La Liga, Champions League. He would pick 5 or 6 matches, predict the outcomes, and place a bet. If all his predictions were correct, he would win big. The odds were always tempting. Turn 2,000 naira into 80,000 naira. Turn 5,000 naira into 200,000 naira. But it never worked. Every single time he would get 4 out of 5 predictions correct, or 5 out of 6. He would be one match away from winning, one goal away from a life-changing payout. And then that one match would betray him. So close, yet so far. He started believing he was cursed. It couldn't be normal to lose this consistently. It couldn't be random. There had to be something spiritual at play, something working against him, some force ensuring that he would always be one step away from success, but never quite reaching it. The betting drained what little money he had left. Money that should have gone to food, to transport, to paying down his loans. He gambled it away, chasing a wind that never came. By December, 8 months after he had first taken the loan, Mike had hit rock bottom. He was owing approximately 680,000 naira across multiple loan apps. He had no more apps to borrow from. His credit score had tanked, and no lender would touch him. He was receiving 20 to 30 threatening calls a day. He had broken up with Chiamaka. He had stopped going to church. He had become a shell of himself. And then one morning, he sat on his mattress and realized he could not continue like that anymore. The thought of disappearing crossed his mind. Just leave Abuja, go somewhere far away, change his number, start over. But where would he go? His family was in the village. His friends knew where he lived. The loan apps had all his information. There was no running away. For a brief, dark moment, he thought about something worse, something final. But even in his despair, some part of him resisted that thought. Some stubborn spark of survival that refused to be extinguished. He couldn't do this alone anymore. He needed help. With trembling hands, he called his elder sister, Maria, who lived in their village in Anambra. She was a trader, selling foodstuffs in the local market. She wasn't wealthy, but she was responsible, level-headed, someone Mike had always looked up to. Sister Maria, he began, his voice breaking. I need to tell you something. And for the first time in 8 months, Mike told the truth. He told her about the loan, about the crypto trading, about Rana, about the losses, about the other loan apps, about the threatening calls, about how he was drowning and didn't know how to swim back to shore. Maria listened in silence. When he finished, there was a long pause. Then she spoke, her voice heavy with disappointment but also compassion. Mike, how could you do this? How could you borrow such a huge amount to gamble? She queried. I didn't think it was gambling. I thought it would work. I thought I could make money and solve all our problems. Mike tried to explain himself. Our problems? Maria's voice rose slightly. Is that what this is about? You felt pressure from the family? I just wanted to help. I wanted to take care of everybody. I wanted to make you all proud, Mike said. Mike, she sounded like she might cry. We are already proud of you. You have a job. You are working hard. Nobody expected you to be a millionaire. But now look at what you've done to yourself. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mike replied. Okay, Maria said, taking a deep breath. Crying about it won't help. Let me see what I can do. 3 days later, Maria called him back. Mike, I have managed to raise 100,000 naira. It's not much, but it's all I could get. I borrowed some, I used some of my savings. Take it and pay off at least one of those apps so the calls can reduce. Mike felt tears streaming down his face. Sister, thank you. I don't deserve this. I will pay you back, I promise. He promised. Just focus on getting out of this mess. We will talk about payback later, she told. 100,000 naira wasn't enough to clear any single loan completely, but it was enough to significantly reduce what he owed to one app and buy him some breathing room. Then, a few days later, Bridget, his colleague at work who had noticed he was struggling, approached him again. This time, Mike was too exhausted to keep lying. Bridget, I'm in trouble, big trouble, he told her. Tell me about it, she said simply. And he told her. A shortened version, but he told her. Bridget didn't judge him, she didn't lecture him. She just said, I have 100,000 naira I can lend you. I know it's not much, but maybe it will help. You can pay me back slowly, no interest. Just pay me when you can. Mike almost collapsed with gratitude. Bridget, I don't know what to say. Thank you. God bless you, he said. Just take care of yourself, okay? You look like you're about to break. Please, take care of yourself. A week later, his younger sister who worked in Lagos sent him a message. Brother, I heard what happened from Sister Maria. I don't have much, but I managed to get a loan from my office cooperative. It's 50,000 naira. No interest, just pay back when you can. Please use it wisely. The message read, Mike sat on his mattress staring at the alert on his phone. 50,000 naira. From his sister who earned barely 60,000 naira a month working as a secretary in a small company. She had gone to borrow money for him, even though she had her own struggles, her own bills to pay. He felt a shame deeper than anything the loan apps had made him feel. His family, who had their own problems, who were managing their own lives with limited resources, had come together to help him clean up the mess he had created. They didn't have to. They could have abandoned him, told him to face the consequences of his foolish decision alone, but they didn't. With the 250,000 naira from his sisters and Bridget, Mike systematically paid off three of the smaller loan apps, Okash, Sokolowan, and New Credit. The calls from those numbers stopped. It felt like removing three heavy stones from his chest. He could breathe a little easier. But spare money remained, the original loan, the one that started everything. He still owed them over 300,000 naira, and they were relentless. The calls continued daily, sometimes multiple times a day. Automated messages and live agents rotating in shifts to ensure Mike never forgot his obligation. For the next year and a half, Mike lived like a monk. He paid fair money 72,000 naira every single month without fail. Some months when his salary was delayed, which happened frequently because the organization's donor funding was often late, Mike would panic. Because every day he was late with payment, fair money added more penalties, more interest. The debt would grow instead of shrinking. During those months when salary delays coincided with loan due dates, Mike would survive on 1 meal a day, sometimes just Gary soaked in water with sugar. He stopped buying data for his phone unless absolutely necessary. He walked to work when he couldn't afford bus fare, a 3-hour trek each way under Abuja's scorching sun. His shoes developed holes that he patched with cardboard. His clothes became threadbare, faded from too much washing and wearing. His colleagues at work noticed but said nothing. Mike had become the office ghost present but not really there, going through the motions, doing his job mechanically but with no enthusiasm, no life in his eyes. The phone calls from Fairmoney became a soundtrack to his existence. Morning calls, afternoon calls, evening calls. Sometimes he answered, sometimes he let them ring. When he answered, he recited the same script. I will pay. My salary is delayed. I will pay as soon as it comes. Please just give me a few more days. The recovery agent's voices ranged from sympathetic to hostile, but the message was always the same. Pay your debt. Pay it now. Pay it or face consequences. Mike became paranoid about phone calls. Even when it was a friend calling, even when it was a family member, his heart would race at the sound of his ringtone. Every notification made him anxious. Every unknown number sent a jolt of panic through his body. He started associating the act of receiving a phone call with stress, with danger, with shame. But gradually, month by month, payment by payment, the debt decreased. 300,000 became 250,000. 250 became 200. 200 became 150. Somewhere in the middle of this grueling period, Mike made a decision that would eventually change his trajectory. He decided to learn a tech skill. He had been following tech Twitter accounts, reading stories of people who had transitioned from other careers into software development, graphic design, data analysis, people who were now earning in dollars, working remotely, living comfortable lives. It seemed like the only path out of his current situation. He couldn't afford to pay for a coding boot camp, but he found free resources online. Free code camp, YouTube tutorials. He started spending his evenings after work, the hours he used to spend scrolling through Rana's Twitter feed and watching crypto chats, learning HTML and CSS, then JavaScript, then React. It was slow, frustrating work. Some concepts took him weeks to grasp. Some days he wanted to give up, convinced he was too old, too tired, too broken to learn something new. But the alternative was staying in his current situation forever, barely surviving, paying debts, watching life passing by. To avoid going home early to his depressing room where there was nothing to do but think about his problems, Mike started staying late at the office. His colleagues would leave at 5 p.m., but Mike would remain using the office internet to study coding tutorials, practice building projects, debug his code. The security guards got used to seeing him there at 8 p.m., sometimes 9 p.m., hunched over his laptop, teaching himself a new future. The staying late served the dual purpose. It kept him distracted from his anxiety, and it saved him money. If he stayed at the office until 8 p.m., he only needed to eat one meal instead of two. He would buy bread and akara from a vendor near the office in the morning, eat half for breakfast, and save half for dinner. On particularly good days, he would add an egg. On bad days, just the bread. He stopped looking at cryptocurrency entirely, deleted Binance from his phone, unfollowed every crypto account on Twitter, including Rana, blocked any mention of Bitcoin or trading from his feeds. The very word crypto made him feel physically ill, a mixture of anger, regret, and shame that sat in his stomach like spoiled food. He had learned the hard way what the crypto veterans always said, but what newcomers rarely believed. Don't invest money you can't afford to lose. Don't follow signals blindly. Don't use leverage. Don't believe people who show you only their wins and hide their losses. Don't think you can outsmart the market. But these lessons had cost him 2 years of his life, destroyed his relationship, damaged his mental health, and put him in a financial hole that he was still clawing his way out of. After 10 months of consistent learning, Mike finished his first real project, a simple web application that helped people track their daily expenses. It wasn't sophisticated, but it worked. He posted it on Twitter with a simple caption: "Built my first full project. Self taught developer. Available for freelance work." He didn't expect much, maybe a few likes from other learners in his position. But one person who saw it was a founder of a small startup looking for a junior developer to help with their website. The pay was 40,000 naira for the project, which would take Mike about 2 weeks of evening work. 40,000 naira. For something he had taught himself. For work he could do after hours without interfering with his day job. He took the project, stayed up late for 2 weeks after his regular work hours, delivered the website, and got paid. It felt like the first clean money he had made in 2 years, money that didn't come from a loan, money that didn't have to go immediately to debt repayments, money he had earned through skill and effort. He used it to pay more toward his fair money loan and buy himself a proper meal for the first time in months: rice with chicken. He sat alone in his room eating it, and he cried. Not from sadness this time, but from relief. From the small, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, he could build his way out of this pit. More freelance projects came. Small at first, 50,000 here, 30,000 there. He wasn't getting rich, but it was supplementary income that eased the pressure. He could eat better. He could pay his loan faster. He could breathe a little. After 18 months of payments, Mike finally cleared his fair money loan. The day he made the final payment, he sat in his office after everyone had gone home and just stared at his phone. The debt counter showed zero. Zero. For the first time in 2 years, he owed fair money nothing. He waited for the euphoria to come, the celebration, the relief. But what he felt instead was exhaustion, just deep, bone crushing exhaustion. He had survived, yes, but survival had taken everything from him. The phone calls stopped, the threatening messages ceased, but the scars remained. Mike was now 32 years old. His relationship with Chamaka was long over. She had moved on, gotten married to someone else, had a child. His father's health had deteriorated during these 2 years because Mike hadn't been able to send as much money home for medical care. His mother was now managing diabetes with medication Mike struggled to pay for consistently. His siblings had learned not to call him for money because they knew he had nothing to give. The Master of Public Health program he had enrolled in at Ahmadu Bello University, the program he had thought would be his stepping stone to permanent employment and better pay, he had dropped out after just one semester. He couldn't afford the fees, couldn't afford the time, couldn't afford the mental energy it required. That dream was dead too. But he had his tech skills now. That was something. That was his way forward. Today, Mike still works at the same HIV AIDS organization in Abuja. He's still an ad hoc staff, still earning roughly the same salary, still making the same three-bus commute from Kubwa to Central area. The dream of being converted to permanent staff has mostly faded. He's seen too many ad hoc workers leave after years of service, never getting the promised permanent positions. But he has a side income now from freelance web development. Some months he makes an additional 50,000 naira, some months 100,000, occasionally more. It's not stable, but it's something. He's been able to start sending small amounts of money home again. Not the amounts he wishes he could send, but better than nothing. He cut his hair, started eating better, gained back some of the weight he had lost, started going to church again, though he never rejoined the choir. Something about standing in front of people and singing felt like a vulnerability he couldn't afford anymore. He lives with a constant low level anxiety that he suspects will never fully go away. Phone calls still make his heart race sometimes, even though it's been months since the debt was cleared. He checks his bank balance multiple times a day, a compulsive habit formed during the years when every naira mattered, when being 500 naira short could mean another penalty charge, another threatening call. He avoids loan apps entirely now, deleted all of them from his phone. When he sees advertisements for quick loans, for instant cash, for easy money, he feels a surge of anger and disgust. He knows exactly what they are: traps for desperate people, predatory lending disguised as financial services, designed to extract maximum profit from people who are already struggling. He thinks about Rana sometimes, the Indian woman who took his $30 and gave him signals that destroyed his life. He checked her Twitter account once, months after everything had fallen apart, and saw that she was still posting the same screenshots of wins, still collecting subscriptions from new victims, still promising 87% win rates and life-changing profits. Her follower count had grown. The comments under her posts were still full of people thanking her, people believing in her, people about to make the same mistake Mike had made. He wanted to warn them, wanted to reply to every person praising her. It's a scam. She doesn't care if you lose everything. You're just a monthly subscription to her. But he knew it wouldn't matter. They wouldn't listen. Just like he hadn't listened when people had tried to warn him about the risks of crypto trading, about following signal providers, about using leverage. People only learn when they lose their own money. Mike is contemplating going back to finish his master's degree. Maybe in another year, when he's saved enough from his freelance work, when the trauma of the debt has faded a little more, he'll try again. He doesn't think about marriage anymore, doesn't date, doesn't look for relationships. That part of his life feels closed, at least for now. The thought of being responsible for another person, of having someone depend on him, of managing a relationship on top of everything else, it's too much. He's still trying to rebuild himself, still trying to figure out who he is after having been broken down so completely. His parents still don't fully understand what happened. They know he had financial problems, that he borrowed money and struggled to pay it back, but they don't know the details. Don't know about the cryptocurrency, the Indian woman, the loan apps, the betting, the full extent of how close he came to completely falling apart. Mike plans to keep it that way. Some stories are too painful to tell, too shameful to share, even with family. What Mike has now is a kind of hard-earned wisdom, the wisdom that comes from making catastrophic mistakes and somehow surviving them. He knows things now that he wishes he didn't have to know. He knows how quickly hope can turn to desperation. He knows how easy it is to fall into a debt trap when you're already struggling. He knows how predatory the financial system can be, how it targets the vulnerable and extracts everything from them. He knows how loneliness feels when you're drowning and everyone around you is going about their normal lives, unaware of the private hell you're experiencing. But he also knows he can survive. He knows he's stronger than he thought. He knows that even when you've lost everything, even when you've made terrible decisions, even when you've destroyed your own life through foolishness and desperation, you can still claw your way back. Slowly, painfully, but possible. If Mike could go back and talk to his 30-year-old self, the young man sitting in that room in Kubwa, about to click borrow on the Fair Money app, what would he say? He thinks about this often. He would say, "Don't do it. Don't borrow that money. I know you're desperate. I know you're tired of struggling. I know you want to help your family, to marry your girlfriend, to prove that you're successful. But this is not the way." He would say, "That Indian woman on Twitter, she doesn't care about you. You're not her student, you're her customer. And when you lose everything, she'll still be posting screenshots of wins, still collecting subscriptions from the next batch of desperate people who think they can get rich quick." He would say, "Cryptocurrency is not evil, but it's not magic either. It's a highly volatile market where most people lose money. And using leverage, using borrowed money, following signals from strangers, that's not investing. That's gambling with your life." He would say, "The pressure you feel from your family, from your girlfriend, from society, I know it feels unbearable. But destroying yourself to meet other people's expectations is not the answer. You can't pour from an empty cup. You have to put on your own oxygen mask first." He would say, "Those loan apps will destroy you. The interest rates are designed to trap you in perpetual debt. One loan will become five loans. The calls will drive you crazy. The shame will eat you alive. Don't do it." But Mike knows his 30-year-old self wouldn't listen, just like he didn't listen to the small voice in his head that said this was a bad idea when he was clicking that borrow button. Just like he didn't listen to the articles he had read warning about crypto scams and loan app traps. When you're desperate, when you're convinced you found the solution to all your problems, when you believe that this time will be different, that you'll be the exception, that you'll be the one who makes it work, you don't listen to warnings. You don't heed caution. You take the leap and hope you'll fly instead of fall. And sometimes you fall hard. To everyone watching or listening to this story, whether you're 30 years old like Mike or younger or older, whether you're struggling with debt or considering taking a loan to invest in something promising, please listen to what Mike learned the hard way. First, never borrow money to invest in volatile markets, not cryptocurrency, not forex, not stocks, not anything that can go to zero. If you can't afford to lose the money, you can't afford to invest it. And if you are borrowing it, you definitely can't afford to lose it. Second, be extremely skeptical of anyone online who promises guaranteed returns, high win rates, or easy money. If someone on social media is showing you only their wins and never their losses, they are selling you something. Professional traders lose money regularly. It's part of the game. Anyone who claims they win 80% or 90% of the time is either lying or showing you cherry picked results. Third, loan apps are predatory. The interest rates are designed to trap you. The penalties for late payment are designed to keep you in perpetual debt. The recovery methods are designed to shame and harass you into paying. These are not services designed to help you, they are designed to profit from your desperation. Fourth, family pressure is real, but you cannot destroy yourself trying to be everyone's savior. Mike tried to be the hero his family needed, and he almost lost everything. You have to build yourself up first before you can effectively help others. This is not selfishness, this is survival. Fifth, when you're in a hole, stop digging. Mike's mistake wasn't just borrowing the initial 400,000 naira. It was borrowing from more loan apps to pay the first one. It was betting on sports, hoping to win back his losses. It was continuing to chase solutions in the same places that had caused his problems. When you realize you've made a mistake, stop. Don't compound it by making more mistakes. Sixth, if you're in debt and drowning, tell someone. Mike suffered alone for months before finally telling his sister. The help he received didn't solve everything, but it gave him breathing room. It reminded him he wasn't alone. Pride will kill you. Shame will bury you. Sometimes you need to swallow your ego and ask for help. Seventh, there are no shortcuts. Not in wealth building, not in career advancement, not in life. The people who get rich quick either got extremely lucky or are lying about how they got rich. For most people, building wealth is slow, boring work, living below your means, saving consistently, developing valuable skills, building over time. It's not exciting. It won't make you rich overnight, but it works. Eighth, learn from other people's mistakes. You don't have to lose your own money to learn these lessons. Mike lost 2 years of his life, destroyed his relationship, damaged his health, and nearly broke completely. Learn from his story. Don't become another Mike. Mike's story is not unique. Across Nigeria, across Africa, across the world, there are thousands of people trapped in similar cycles. People who borrowed money for crypto and lost it all. People who are being harassed by loan recovery agents. People who are working but living like they're unemployed because all their income goes to debt servicing. People who are one emergency away from complete financial collapse. The systems that should protect vulnerable people are instead exploiting them. The loan apps that advertise during financial difficulties are predators, not helpers. The social media gurus promising easy wealth are scammers, not mentors. The culture that tells young people they should be millionaires by 30 is toxic, not motivational. Mike is still here, still working, still building, still trying to create something from the wreckage of his mistakes. He's not where he wants to be, but he's no longer where he was. And that's something, if you're in a situation like Mike's right now, if you're drowning in debt, if you're receiving threatening calls, if you feel like there's no way out, please know this: you can survive. It won't be easy, it won't be quick, it will be painful and humiliating and exhausting, but you can survive. Get help. Tell someone you trust. Make a plan. Pay what you can when you can. Ignore the threats and insults from recovery agents that are trained to break you down emotionally. Focus on moving forward, even if it's inch by inch. Learn a skill that can generate additional income. Cut expenses ruthlessly. Protect your mental health. And most importantly, forgive yourself. You made a mistake, maybe a big one, maybe a terrible one, but you're not defined by your worst decision. You're not a failure because you fell for a scam. You're not stupid because you believed someone who seemed trustworthy. You're human. Humans make mistakes. The question is not whether you made a mistake, but whether you learn from it and keep moving forward. To those watching or listening who have never borrowed money to invest, who have never fallen for a scam, who are watching Mike's story and thinking it could never happen to them, please don't be too quick to judge. Desperation makes people do things they never thought they would do. When you're facing family pressure, relationship pressure, societal pressure, and you're broke and tired and just want one win, just one break, just one opportunity to get ahead, bad decisions start looking like good ones. Mike wasn't stupid. He was educated, thoughtful, responsible, but he was also desperate, and desperation clouds judgment. To those who are considering following crypto signal providers, who are thinking about borrowing money to invest, who believe they can beat the market, think very carefully, research thoroughly, understand the risks. Talk to people who have lost money, not just those who have won. And if you proceed, never risk more than you can afford to lose. Never. To those who operate or work for loan apps, who set the interest rates and penalties, who hire aggressive recovery agents, understand that you're not just dealing with numbers on a screen. You're dealing with people's lives, people who are already struggling. Your business model might be legal, but that doesn't mean it's ethical. That doesn't mean it's not destroying families and pushing people to the edge. To Rana and people like Rana who profit from selling signals to desperate people. You know what you're doing. You know that most of your subscribers will lose money. You know that for every screenshot of a win you post, there are dozens of people silently losing everything following your calls. The money you're making is built on the broken dreams and empty bank accounts of people who trusted you. Sleep well with that knowledge. Mike's phone still rings sometimes. Not with debt collector calls anymore, but with freelance clients, with family members, with normal life. He answers now without the paralyzing fear he used to feel. That's progress. He still checks his bank balance compulsively. Old habits die hard, but the balance is slowly growing instead of shrinking. That's progress too. He still lives in the same room in Kubwa, still takes the same buses to work, still earns roughly the same salary, but the weight on his chest is lighter. The future, which once seemed impossibly dark, now has a few rays of light breaking through. He's thinking about the master's program, thinking about maybe eventually trying to date again, thinking about visiting his parents in the village. He hasn't been home in 3 years because he was ashamed, because he couldn't afford to go, because facing them felt impossible. But maybe soon, maybe life is still hard, money is still tight, the scars are still there, but Mike is still here. And that's, after everything, is what matters most. If you learned something from Mike's story, if it made you think twice about a financial decision you were considering, if it helped you understand someone in your life who is struggling with debts, please share this story. Your share might save someone from making the same mistake. Your share might give someone in Mike's position the courage to ask for help. Your share might change a life. And if you have your own story about debts, about scams, about financial struggles, share it in the comments. Not to relieve the pain, but to warn others, to show people they are not alone, to build a community of people who have survived and can help others survive too. Mike's story is still being written. The ending isn't determined yet, but he's writing it now with wisdom, caution, and hard earned knowledge. And that's more than he had when this all started. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay skeptical, stay smart, and remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Subscribe for more true stories.